Why do some people notice things that everyone else seems to miss? Why can they sense that something feels wrong before anyone says a single word? Why do they replay conversations, analyze tiny changes in someone's voice, or catch expressions that everyone else ignores? For years, many of these people have been told they think too much, that they worry too much. Eventually, they begin wondering if something is wrong with the way their minds work. But what if the opposite is true? What if your mind isn't creating problems, but noticing patterns that other people simply never see? Being highly aware is more than a personality trait. It is a completely different way of experiencing the world. A gift that allows you to understand people more deeply, but one that can quietly become exhausting. In this video, we'll explore why some people become too aware, what is really happening inside their minds, and why the ability that helps them see so much can also become the hidden burden they carry every day. Here is what most people misunderstand about being highly aware. They assume awareness automatically makes life easier. That if you notice more, understand people better, or recognize hidden patterns, you must have an advantage. Sometimes that is true. But awareness also comes with a cost that few people ever see. Your mind rarely stops observing. It notices changes in people's behavior, small shifts in someone's tone, the silence after a conversation, the expression that lasts for only a second. While other people move on, your brain keeps searching for meaning. It asks, what did that really mean? Did I miss something? Should I have responded differently? Over time, this constant awareness becomes exhausting. Not because the world is more complicated, but because your mind rarely gives itself permission to stop searching. That is the hidden burden. You do not just experience life. You experience every detail your mind believes might matter. And eventually, that constant awareness can become difficult to turn off. So where does this constant awareness come from? For some people, it begins long before they realize it. Imagine growing up in an environment where emotions were unpredictable. A parent who could be warm one moment and distant the next. A home where you never knew what mood was waiting behind the front door. Without realizing it, your brain starts paying closer attention. It learns to read facial expressions, changes in someone's voice, even the smallest shifts in body language. Not because you wanted to become highly observant, but because your mind believed noticing those details would help keep you safe. Psychologists often describe this as hypervigilance, a state where the brain remains constantly alert for signs of danger, conflict, or rejection. Years later, the environment may have changed, but your brain is still following the same pattern. Still scanning, still analyzing, still preparing for problems before they happen. What once protected you can quietly become the reason your mind never truly rests. The difficult part is that this pattern rarely disappears on its own. Even after life becomes safer, your brain may continue reacting as though it still needs to protect you. You walk into a meeting and instantly notice who seems distant. A friend replies with a shorter message than usual, and your mind starts searching for reasons. Someone pauses before answering, and you wonder if you said something wrong. Most of the time, none of these moments actually mean what your brain assumes they do. But awareness does not wait for proof. It reacts to possibility. The brain would rather prepare for a problem that never happens than ignore one that might. That survival strategy once helped you adapt. Now it quietly follows you into friendships, relationships, and everyday conversations. The world may no longer be dangerous, but your mind is still scanning for signs that it could become dangerous again. And that is why being too aware can feel less like a gift, and more like a full-time job your brain never asked to quit. One of the clearest signs of being too aware is that your mind is always scanning. Imagine sending someone a message. Hours pass, and they still haven't replied. For many people, it is just a delayed response. But your mind immediately starts collecting evidence. Did I say something wrong? Are they upset with me? Did I miss a sign? Without realizing it, you replay your last conversation. You examine every word, every emoji, every pause. Not because you enjoy overthinking, but because your brain has learned that small details might predict bigger problems. Psychologists believe this constant scanning is the brain's attempt to reduce uncertainty. The more uncertain a situation feels, the harder your mind works to explain it. The problem is that uncertainty is part of everyday life. And if your brain treats every unknown as a mystery that must be solved, peace becomes surprisingly difficult to find. But the constant observation does not stop with other people. Eventually, it turns inward. You begin analyzing yourself with the same intensity. After every conversation, you wonder, did I talk too much? Was I too quiet? Did I sound strange? Instead of simply experiencing the moment, you begin evaluating yourself from the outside. Psychologists call this heightened self-monitoring. It is the habit of constantly watching your own behavior as though someone else is judging it. At first, it may seem helpful. It can make you thoughtful, polite, and emotionally aware. But when it becomes excessive, every interaction starts feeling like a performance instead of a conversation. You stop trusting your natural reactions. You edit your words before you speak. And slowly, the fear of making a small mistake becomes louder than the freedom of simply being yourself. That is when awareness quietly begins turning into self-doubt. This way of thinking also changes the way you experience relationships. Most people listen to what others say. You find yourself paying even more attention to what they do not say. A delayed reply, a forced smile, a sudden change in energy. Your mind automatically begins filling in the missing pieces. Sometimes you are right. But many times, you are simply trying to solve a puzzle that does not exist. The more aware you become, the easier it is to mistake possibilities for facts. Psychologists refer to this as pattern detection. The human brain is naturally wired to search for meaning. But when that system becomes overly active, it starts connecting dots that may have nothing to do with each other. Without realizing it, you begin carrying emotional weight that was never yours to carry. Not because people are hiding something from you, but because your mind struggles to leave unanswered questions alone. And that can make even healthy relationships feel emotionally exhausting. Another hidden burden of being highly aware is that you do not only notice other people's emotions. You often absorb them. Walk into a room where someone is anxious, and your body becomes tense. Spend time with someone who is frustrated, and you may carry that feeling long after they have forgotten it. Psychologists believe this is partly connected to emotional contagion. The brain naturally mirrors the emotions of the people around us. For highly aware individuals, that response can become much stronger. Without realizing it, you begin carrying feelings that were never yours. You become emotionally exhausted, even when nothing difficult has happened in your own life. That is why solitude often feels like relief. It is not because you dislike people. It is because your mind finally has a chance to separate your own emotions from everyone else's. And for someone who is constantly absorbing the emotional world around them, that quiet space can feel like the only place where their mind can truly breathe. The strange part is that this constant awareness does not stay inside your thoughts. Eventually, your body begins reacting too. Your shoulders remain tense. You find it difficult to fully relax. Even on quiet days, your mind keeps waiting for something to happen. Psychologists explain that the brain and body are constantly communicating. When your brain repeatedly scans for potential threats, your nervous system prepares to respond. Even when there is nothing to fear. Your heart beats a little faster. Your breathing becomes slightly shallower. Your muscles stay ready for action. Over time, this state of constant alertness becomes your normal. You may tell yourself, "I'm just tired." But what you are really experiencing is the weight of a nervous system that rarely feels completely safe. That is why true rest can feel surprisingly difficult. Because your body cannot fully relax, until your mind believes it no longer has to watch everything all the time. This is also why highly aware people often struggle to make simple decisions. Not because they are indecisive, but because they can imagine too many possible outcomes. Before making one choice, their minds have already explored 10 different scenarios. What if this goes wrong? What if I overlooked something? What if there is a better option? Psychologists sometimes call this analysis paralysis. The more possibilities your brain creates, the harder it becomes to choose just one. You keep waiting for complete certainty. But certainty rarely exists. Meanwhile, life continues moving forward. Ironically, the more aware you become, the easier it is to believe you can think your way out of uncertainty. But some questions cannot be solved through more analysis. They can only be answered by experience. And perhaps the greatest burden of being too aware is believing you must understand everything before allowing yourself to simply live. So, how do you stop awareness from becoming a burden instead of a strength? The answer is not to notice less. It is to stop believing that every thought deserves your attention. Highly aware people often assume that if something enters their mind, it must be important. If they notice a small change, they feel they must understand it. If they sense uncertainty, they feel responsible for solving it. But thoughts are not facts. Feelings are not predictions. And uncertainty is not evidence that something is wrong. Real peace begins when you learn to observe your thoughts, without immediately believing them. You can notice a change in someone's mood, without assuming you caused it. You can recognize uncertainty, without trying to eliminate it. You can leave some questions unanswered, and still be completely safe. The goal is not to silence your awareness. It is to teach your awareness where it truly belongs. Because the strongest minds are not the ones that notice everything. They are the ones that know when to keep observing, and when to finally let go. If there is one thing to remember after watching this video, it is this. Being highly aware is not your weakness. The real burden is believing that you must carry everything your mind notices. Not every silence is about you. Not every change is a warning. And not every thought deserves your attention. Your awareness can become one of your greatest strengths, when you stop allowing it to control your peace. You do not have to understand every emotion. You do not have to predict every outcome. And you do not have to solve every uncertainty before allowing yourself to enjoy the present moment. Some of the happiest people are not those who notice the least. They are the ones who know when to stop searching for answers that may never come. So the next time your mind begins analyzing every detail, pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Remind yourself that awareness is meant to help you experience life, not protect you from living it. If this video gave you a new perspective, comment the number 1 below. Just to see how many highly aware minds are finally learning that peace begins the moment they stop trying to understand everything.